I ended up for tons of reasons in Kaliningrad. I'm sure if you thought about going to Russia, it's not the first place you would think about. A few months ago, I didn't even know it existed. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Kaliningrad is this little piece of Russia in Europe, bordered by Poland in the south and Lithuania on the east. The region is actually called Kaliningrad Oblast, and the capital of this region is Kaliningrad. And tell me in the comments if you've never heard about this region. I'm very interested. So why is there a piece of Russia outside Russia? For that, we need to go back in time a little bit. The first traces of the city date back to an old settlement from a tribe called the Sabians. At this time, the city name was not Kaliningrad, but Twangster. In 1254, the king Ottokar II led the Teutonic Crusade and conquered the city. And he renamed it Königsberg. And in 1255, the same king built the Königsberg Castle. During the 16th century, Albrecht of Prussia, the Grand Master of the Teutonic Order, becomes the first ruler of the Duchy of Prussia. So in short, Kaliningrad becomes part of Prussia. The center of the city was originally the island of Kans, which was one of the three cities at the origin of Kaliningrad or Königsberg. In the center of the island stands the cathedral, which is one of the last remnants of this Prussian time. Inside the cathedral you can find a really interesting museum dedicated to the philosopher Kant, as his remains are buried under the cathedral. In the City Museum you can find many pictures and models of what the city looked like before. In 1758 the Russians entered Königsberg for the first time during the 7-Year War. But in 1762 the Treaty of St. Petersburg is signed and Russia gives back East Prussia. In 1871 Königsberg becomes part of the German Empire. At this time many fortifications were built, 6 gates at the entrance of the city, as well as many forts to protect it. This fort was built in the second half of the 19th century by the Prussians. Fort 5 is one of the many forts that was built after the Franco-Prussian War to defend the city. Then of course World War I and the Nazi occupation in the 1930s. In 1944 the city suffered from many bombings from the British Royal Air Force. The old town was severely damaged, as well as the castle and other iconic buildings such as the cathedral. In 1945, it is the storming of Königsberg, or the Battle of Königsberg, where the Soviets fought against the Nazis to control the city. On the 7th of April 1945, the city fell under the control of the Soviet army. After those two offensives, the city was 80% destroyed.
it's much easier to do a video when it's hot and sunny.
Fort 5 has been used to defend the city from the Soviets and was heavily bombed. Today it is the most tourist-friendly fort to visit. Same thing for the island of Kant, nearly nothing is left. Before Second World War, everything you can see around me was a whole city. After the Soviets took the city, a short period of cohabitation took place. But eventually, after 3 to 5 years, most of the Germans were expelled from the city and from the region. After the war, the city of Königsberg was renamed Kaliningrad, and many Russians moved in, as well as people from other Soviet states, such as Belarus or Ukraine, for example. And obviously the city language changed from German to Russian. Since then, Kaliningrad and its region are part of the Russian Federation. After the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, Kaliningrad was separated from mainland Russia. So what is really interesting about Kaliningrad is this mixture between Soviet and European culture. Nowadays you can see many Soviet-style buildings built all over the city, and it gives kind of an interesting feeling, vibe to the city. They even built this atrocity on the ruins of the castle called the Soviet House. But the locals call it the robot head because of its shape. I talk mainly about the city of Kaliningrad because it is the place I spend the most time in, but the whole region is worth to visit. The landscape is similar to most of northern European countries such as Belgium, Netherlands, or even north of France. So right now we're in we are in Kurska National Park, or in English it's called Curonian Spit. It's the longest sand spit in the world, and it's about 98 kilometers long, and it separates the Baltic Sea from the Curonian Lagoon. The southern part of the spit is part of Russia, and the northern part is part of Lithuania. So behind me here you have Lithuania, and on this side is the Curonian Lagoon. It is part of UNESCO World Heritage. Here you can find beautiful landscapes from sand dunes to forest. One funny thing that is really special to this place, and you cannot find anywhere else, at least I never found it, is the relation to street animals. In the city of Kaliningrad, they love street cats. They feed them, they build them houses, there are people to take care of them, they have a city holiday for it. They have food distribution machines, and they even have street lights, especially for cats. And in Kaliningrad it's the same with street dogs. Around the city you can find a lot of street dogs that are in really good shape and quite fat actually. because people are feeding them, they are giving them blankets when it's cold.
The 5 dogs live here.
I visited a lady that take care of them and give them meat and everything, so it's quite a big thing in the city.
Oh, okay.
Вот хотели забрать еще в том году, почему-то не пришли. Вот это еще у меня стоит, это просто встреченный. Да, причем не с такого, это вот...
А мы видели, собаки ели как раз кусок мяса такого. Еще удивились, что
So after spending a few days in this place, I can say I'm pleasantly surprised. I wasn't expecting much, but it is a really nice city, a really nice region. The good thing nowadays is that for European citizens, you don't need a visa. At least you need only an online application to come here. So it's really easy to do. It takes only 4 days maximum, so it's much easier than doing the whole process of the Russian visa. It's also a very cheap place. Eating out is quite cheap. Hostels. So it's a very affordable region of Russia to visit. One thing I would say about the museums is that there is really little translation in English. You can always find an audio guide or a guide that would make you visit in English, but not many translations. So it's kind of hard to understand the history. So I helped myself a lot with internet and my Russian friend who told me a lot about all the history. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll see you next week. Bye.